So the gastrointestinal system, it's really your internal organs that mainly digest food. It stretches from the mouth all the way down to your bottom. The objectives of this lecture is to discuss the structures involved, talk to you about what the function of this gastrointestinal system is, and discuss a few diseases that affect the gastrointestinal system. So these are the structures. It's pretty simple if you think of it. When you drink or eat something that goes in your mouth, it's everything that goes from your mouth all the way down to your body, all the structures in between. So the first part is the oral cavity. That's another way of saying inside your mouth. The next one is your esophagus. That connects from your mouth to your stomach. That's a long tube that goes down. After that's the stomach. After the stomach, surrounding the stomach, there's a few structures. One is called the liver. The other one's called the gallbladder, and the other one's called the pancreas. All those are actually organs that make enzymes to help you digest your food or certain drinks that you ingest. And then afterwards, it goes into your small intestine, and after that is your large intestine, and then it goes finally out through the rectum and anus. The other thing is chemicals. So I was saying, like in your mouth, if you put a cracker or a piece of bread in there, even without chewing, slowly it'll dissolve. That's because there's enzymes in your mouth to break it down. And as it moves through into your stomach, your small intestines and everything, there's other enzymes that act on it and break it down. And the reason why your body breaks it down is so that it helps your body absorb the nutrients from the food. And that's actually what makes you guys grow, makes your brain grow, helps you function every day. All right? Anything that's not broken down or your body can't use is excreted. So I know last week we spoke about the renal system. Some things get excreted through the urine, and other things get excreted through your stool. All right? So during the process of absorption, nutrients that come from food, some things are called carbohydrates, and that's things like bread, pastas, rice, right? Proteins, that's typically from meats or beans, and that's what actually helps your muscles grow. There's fats, and believe it or not, the majority of your brain is actually made up of fat. Now, how many of you, when you drank something, started choking on it? Is what we say, like you went down the wrong pipe or something like that, right? So you actually have something called the epiglottis, because if you think about it, you drink and you eat through your mouth, but also some people can breathe through their mouth. So the epiglottis is a flap that goes over your lungs to prevent the fluid and drink from going down. But once in a while, they actually just have something go down our lungs and we'll just cough it out. And that's because the epiglottis was just a little open, so the food and drink goes down. But typically, the epiglottis closes over the lungs, closes over the trachea, and all the food goes down the esophagus. So the esophagus, again, is a long muscular tube that goes from your neck all the way down to your stomach. And if you think of a piece of food that's like Play-Doh, by the time it gets into your esophagus, the esophagus is just a piece of muscle that keeps on squeezing it down. And that's actually how it gets into your stomach. The process of the muscle squeezing is called peristalsis. After the esophagus, at the very bottom of the esophagus, it narrows up. It's what we call a sphincter, just a narrowing. And all the food gets into the stomach. The reason why there's a narrowing there is so the food doesn't come back into the stomach. Now, I don't know if any of your parents spoke about something called heartburn. Anyone ever speak about heartburn? What happens is your stomach is full of a lot of acid. And if some of this acid comes back up through that narrowing, you get heartburn because that acid is going into your esophagus. So actually, everyone has a narrowing called that lower esophageal sphincter on top, but some people it's a little bit more open than others. Right? So again, when the food's in the stomach, your stomach is full of acid, and that actually helps break down the food. And there's two sphincters. So one is the one up at the top, right by the esophagus, so the food and the acid doesn't go back up there where you get heartburn. And the other one's at the bottom of the stomach. And the reason why there's a narrowing down there is so that it holds the food in the stomach long enough to break it down. I use these just to pick it up. This would be the outside of it, but this is the inside. And you see all these little ridges here?
Yeah.
The reason why they have all these ridges is because if you were to look at it underneath the microscope, inside there actually has all these little particles. One is to help absorb the nutrients.
The second thing is to help absorb water, and that's actually where all the little enzymes come from to help break down the food. And
so basically, the enzyme was inside.
yeah, it's really small little area like ducts that you can only see with a microscope, but inside there. And if you actually were to think of just a straight piece of paper, there's only a certain amount of area that you could actually use to absorb liquids or food. The reason why there's all these little ridges is because by doing this, instead of being flat, you actually have all these things all over the place. And this actually helps you absorb nutrients and water much more effectively. That's why it looks with all these ridges here and here. And again, if you were to turn it over, like this piece, that's what the outside would look like. But the inside, again, has all these little type of ridges.
So what is it like job? What does it basically do?
The job?
Yeah.
So again, the enzymes that would be secreted from inside here helps you break down food, or if you drank milk or something like that, whatever you drink or food, it helps break it down, and then all these things help you reabsorb the water, if there is water, or nutrients, vitamins, minerals, proteins, all that type of stuff.